Hi, it's Stu, and I'm so grateful to be here talking about books, to be a reader, to be part of a reading community, um, both kind of insular in my own life and also expansive with folks who I don't even know, who sometimes watch these videos or get links to others. And I say all that because I'm taking a moment for gratitude because I'm quite sad these days. And it's that sort of ancient restlessness inside of me, maybe even a little monophobia or something as such, um, that that I'm battling with, that I appreciate fiction to also help me connect with and empathize with others, albeit the imaginations of the authors still essence of human understanding and existence, and I'm grateful for that. And inside of this gratitude, without projecting toxic positivity, I'm also quite sad. So I decided to do something right now that I wasn't in the mood to do, which is make this video so that I can reflect a little on, first, any book that I got, there's a dopamine hit, but also on, things that I'm looking forward to. I also want to just bring up in that context, recently I went to dinner with a friend and I was able to give them a tote of books. They are buddy reads, of which I found more than one copy in thrifting kind of situation. So I kind of curated well out thrifting a couple of books to buddy read throughout the year with this friend, and I was able to give them a tote, and they gave me a gifted book, which I'm going to talk about. And that was just a really precious experience. And that friend also, because they were so curious to know why I unhaul all of the books that I read, and maybe even a little incredulous. And I think maybe one day I'll make, a video essay on that. But it was an interesting conversation to have, and I left it feeling still quite determined, with few exceptions. Fast forward a few days later, a friend came over and wanted to go through my unhaul pile because I was about to go to Little Free Libraries. It was my Little Free Library week, and they also took a tote of books out of that pile and wanted to hear a synopsis, which was really great, of the books that they already kind of selected. They had a couple yeses and maybes, and they wanted me to give them a synopsis. And they also said they really appreciated my book ecosystem or atmosphere that I have in my little apartment. And we're also a little bit incredulous that there's certainly, you don't give away all copies of everything. And I said, yeah, there's been one exception. Actually, there's been two. One is like a masterclass book that I'm actually still buddy reading with someone. And then one's a reread that I actually want to buddy read with someone, and I would like to reread it just before they get around to it. Other than that, I have some ideas of like collections I would like to keep. But I don't know when the moment comes of like unhauling the book, especially if I can find either a great owner for the book, like pass it on to someone I know who would really like it, or the collection. I might keep it as a collection. For example, I finished the first book in the Neapolitan series, and I haven't unhauled it yet, but it's not because I don't intend. I intend to finish all of them and unhaul the quartet. Okay, that's enough of my rambling. Shall we talk about the books that I got? Some friends of the library, some like little side really cheap book sales, lots of Little Free Library, and gifts. So let's start with a gift. My friend with whom I read the English translation done by Jhumpa Lahiri herself, called Whereabouts, which also was an interesting, I thought, way to translate Dove Mi Trovo. I buddy read it with the person. I said, one day I will find the original Italian version, probably when I'm in Italy, and I will get it and I will read it. And of course, I often, people who buddy read with me make comments about my reading speed. I am a quick reader. And I don't know if that's necessarily to do with my speed or my ability to just focus on reading and stay in reading for like an hour or two, because I don't know. I mean, if people are measuring how many words they're reading per minute and where their comprehension level is, or the depth of comprehension. But of course, if I'm going to read in Italian, which is a language that I know that I at one time spoke, read, and write quite well, actually more than conversationally, and have read several when I was in Italy, and I wonder where those books are. I do have a little Italian library. I got Italian books and I used reading to help accelerate. So I did live and work in Italy for a while to sort of accelerate my language comprehension. That was a lot to say. I'm so happy to have Dove mi trovo, and it's now just crediting what I said. I have not on hold whereabouts yet, because I was waiting to talk with this friend, and I did about it, and then now maybe I won't, because I want to have the English and Italian version for whenever I get to the Italian version, in case I just want to rely on, in case I'm a little stuck with the contextual translation or words. I'd rather use Jhumpa Lahiri's translation than say Google or something like that. So the count is increasing on books that I haven't on hold. Still, the vast majority of them, more than 99% I do. Anyway, Dove mi trovo. Absolutely so excited that a friend got this for me. And now let's talk about classics. So this is a rather large classic haul for a person who hasn't and isn't really reading her classics. So that kind of leads me to speculate. Am I just having classics to have around? Are they great to have as reference? We're going to get to that in a second. Or I mean, does it sort of make me feel smart to have classics? I didn't for like the better part of a year. I'd see a classic and I say, I'm not reading classics, I'm not hauling it. Now I pretty much just get them from really thrifty, and you'll see these are really old editions, like 50-cent and $1 editions. Or I'm not choosing to pay money from them. I'm trading up in little free libraries, or getting them as part of my free books, or for very, very reduced costs. I don't know. None of that really justifies why I'm like kind of building a classic shelf without reading any classics. So I guess that's just a moment of reflection of when and if I'll be ready to read classics. I went back and forth over I was going to take this. This is Aldous Huxley's. There's like 2 essays, I think. And this book is classified as psychology. And I guess I knew that about him, but I've only read his fiction, which was Brave New World. I've read it a couple of times. I might have even taught it a few times. And, you know, I did do sort of quite a bit of dystopian at the end of last year. Wonder why I'm sad. I don't really think that's the reason, but one should reflect on, am I reading too much of something when I'm in a kind of mood? Anyway, this is The Doors of Perception and Heaven and Hell. I was actually really pleased to see that there's an audio version of The Doors of Perception at my library. And I assumed that there wasn't, but I checked out this font and I said, oh, that will work for me. And these are quite short, and I think that this would be a good catapult. The Doors of Perception, from what I understand, is about he takes peyote and then gets quite existential. And that's what I think. That's what I understand it's about. So let me go back and finish my sentence of catapult. Catapult into maybe pulling out classics, especially as the references. So let me go on to say, I found Nostromo. Now, I had Nostromo in a want to read section, like a tag that I have at the library, because I finished The True Story of Costaguana. And in October, and this is the reference material for that. And I think if I find it, I'll link the that video, that review video in the description, but I have a lot of books I'm going through, so maybe I would just make a completely different video. I donated that book to the Friends of the Library, and I still see it there. So it's not enticing for other folks, which is too bad. I had a great time with that book, and I really had a great time thinking and learning about Joseph Conrad and this source book. I will never be able to just read this. Oh my gosh, it's like gives me a headache just kind of even gleaning at it. But I mean, as it was like 50 cents or $1, I'm really happy to have this to remind me that this is source material that I want to read, and hopefully not so distant from the other book, because I would like to try to remember. That being said, I'll find the other book again, perhaps, or go read. Maybe it won't have been sold by from the Friends of the Library by the time I get this, and go get my copy, buy it back, and just consider it a couple dollar donation to the Friends of the Library so that I can look at them together. I think also in the lines of source material, and I think whenever I find a Kafka, I will get it. Kafka is just referenced so much. And so this is Kafka's The Trial. I think this was published posthumously, and his friend was told to destroy it. So there's some thoughts and conversation that can be had around, should people be doing that? And if they didn't, we wouldn't have this book. And of course, I haven't read the book, so I can't tell you, yeah, no, definitely. It's worth the world having this book, even if it was against the owner of the Thoughts and Ideas wishes. I don't know. But yeah, Kafka's just referenced by so many folks, both directly and indirectly. And I think, yeah, I'm constructing the idea that I have classics, if not for any other reason, but to have the references. And if I get into the phase where I really want to go to the reference, I have an opportunity to do it without even waiting around. I could read that one, yeah, in natural light. Anyway, likewise, I have now seen several versions and several copies of this in the trilogy that followed, as this is a prequel. But, I think as this is, of course, there was fantasy, I believe, pre-Tolkien, but is this not sort of the genre-defining read? Perhaps. And for that reason, I decided to haul. I actually liked this edition. I hadn't seen it before. This was at a little free library. So I took it. I traded a popular contemporary fiction, for it. This has some great illustrations in it. I appreciate that. And maybe I will read it for that genre defining read. And yeah, that's what I have to say. By the way, I'm referencing the 52 Book Club's 2026 reading prompt, and I kind of already covered that, I think, with another book that I read. But anyway, I hauled this. It's going in classics because it is a classic, and like within the construct of reference material. Something that may or may not be referenced, but I just hauled it anyway, was M.P. Shields' The Purple Cloud. And I think this is like classic dystopian. Yeah, I've been reading a lot of dystopian, so I don't know if I need to go there anytime soon again, but should I foray back into a little bit of dystopian reading, or just, shuffle it in amongst what I'm reading? I was interested in the premise of this book when I read the back and thought, for a buck, let's go ahead and put it on the classic shelf. All right, classics are done. Another thing that I'm not reading, but I'm thinking about, why am I not reading it, and how can I, and just think about it without even setting goals. I'm really not in a goal setting mode. I'm really not in a put pressure on yourself to do more. I'm in a as long as you're not using a justification to wallow, as long as you're being active intellectually and physically in some way, like all of this sort of like goal setting productivity life, no, I'm not all about that right now. I'm about finding a way to be my best self in moments and not putting all of this productivity pressure on myself. That being said, here I am reflecting, why am I not reading nonfiction when I was exclusively a nonfiction reader for a long time? There's answers. It's not even a rhetorical question. However, I do want to remind myself from time to time that I read several a year, so listen to me ramble. Remind myself that nonfiction is an option, and if I find something, and all of these came from little free libraries, that is in my realm of interest, I'll grab it, and then I can look at it later. My shelf is quite small, so if it runs out of room, I can go through and say, like I do with mystery thriller, read or unhaul, or do I really want to read this book? I also have quite a bit of friends who are only nonfiction readers who I can pass books along to in the nonfiction realm, and I do that quite a bit less as I'm such a literary and contemporary fiction reader right now. Anyway, this is Christopher Hitchens, Why Orwell Matters. I have quite a few Hitchens in a box because I read him quite a bit in the past, and I was excited to find this. I have one Orwell that was also in a box. It wasn't even my classic shelf that I was able to find an audio version of. So I think I'm going to try to do a pairing of this and then that one Orwell that I still have on my shelf. And I don't know when. So I do have plans, at least. The Art of Loving by Erich Fromm. Okay. I keep telling my own child that Escape from Freedom, I believe, is the name of a Fromm book that I really read multiple times, has many annotations. I found this in a little free library. I was, excited. I was into Fromm at one time in my life. Will I still be? I don't know. Is this this is not a very big commitment. And to be fair, philosophizing, as Fromm is a philosopher, on the art of loving might be the way forward. I also have some bell hooks books in a completely different stack that could be, this could inspire me to look back to bell hooks and some of her inspirations, both for my professional career and just for how I conceive the world and how my place in it, and how to, rage against some of the machines that need to be raged against nonstop. I'm super, 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 super excited to find Braiding Sweet Glass, Indigenous Women, Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I am well aware of this book. I have friends who have and love this book who said that they would lend me a copy, and I said no. When I find my own in a little free library, in my favorite little free library, now you can see why it's my favorite. I traded up some good contemporary fiction in there, and it goes well. I look and my books are gone, whatever I put in there, the next time I go in a few weeks or 2 or 3 weeks. I'm super excited for this. The thing that I remembered about nonfiction when I hauled this book was that I don't have to read it all at once. I can read parts of it and set it down and go back and read other parts of it. It's a different reading experience than fiction. And then that kind of threw me into this sort of a bit philosophical loop that I just discussed with you about my nonfiction reading. This is a much anticipated and a read that I believe will happen this year. First of all, it fits one of the 52 Book Club's prompts, which is to subtitle has a comma, and that was one of the ones that I'm like, nah, if I don't find something for that, I'm not gonna sweat it. Reading challenges are great, but as I said before, having a super amount of goals, not really for me. Really gentle encouragement is what I need in my life right now, not toxic productivity or anything that can slowly slide into that, or quickly landslide into that as well. So I have full intentions, maybe in the month of March, to start reading this book, whatever that looks like, via audio, digital, physical, and then take as long as it takes. And to just have this be chapter for chapter, like one chapter a week, that kind of a reading experience for me. The friends that I have it, I'd like to engage them and say, if you haven't read it, do you want to just read this chapter with me, etc. So I have plans for this book. Super excited to have found this book. This video is getting long, so the contemporary and literary fiction that I found, and some genre fiction, I'm just going to go a little bit more quickly through, for that reason. The Incredible Kindness of Paper by Evelyn Skye. It's signed. This felt heartwarming, and this felt gentle, and this felt right. I think it's published in 2025. I think it's got zero hype that I've been aware of, and I don't know if I care. I think having a young author who's intending to show how humans connect with each other is the kind of read perhaps that I just need now. And so this is one of those, like, if I don't get to kind of quickly, as it's a little free library, then I'll just put it back and see if I can find it again. But it felt like a right grab for right now. Christopher Moore's Shakespeare for Squirrels. This is a retelling of Midsummer Night's Dream, and I believe it's with a mystery twist. I don't have a whole lot more space on my mystery thriller, but I am about to start listening to Hamnet. I then plan on reading a short biography of Shakespeare, and I think that this would be great to kind of read in the same reading time as all of that. So it's another one of those. I have a plan to read it, and somewhat soon. And if I don't get to it, I got it from a little free library, I can go ahead and put it back, or make the decision on my mystery thriller shelf, like what gets unhauled without read, so that this can take space that there isn't that much now. I have one more detective mystery, and this is not even available at my library. It feels really sort of independent-y, and I don't know that much about it. I did decide to grab it, and it's a detective mystery. I've said enough in previous videos about how that is kind of my guilty pleasure. I feel like it's a bit page turnery, and I feel like this is like a at the park, because this is there's no digital version that I could find, at least from my library, of this. So this is one that I have to make the decision. Do I actually think that I would read this, well, at a beach one day, or in having an opportunity in traveling and having natural light, because it's what I'm going to consider a bit of a popcorn read, and a bit of a mystery page turning thriller. Another genre book that I grabbed because I had just said, no, I think fantasy just isn't for me. And then, this is an ARC. This came from a little free library, and if I don't get to it, same thing. But this is a young person of color author who is writing from that place, and I believe it's also sapphic. And I think that I have space in my heart, and even grace for if some things don't work, for said kind of work. Again, it's an ARC, even though it came out in 2025. So it'll be I have a little stack of, like, if you want to, like, look at these, if you're running out of space, and read or unhaul, or just get rid of them. And that's where this goes. The Irish Goodbye was just a bit of a, it's going to be in the same kind of situation. It's a bit of an experimental, it's not that big of a commitment. It maybe a little bit overhypey, feels a bit heartwarming, a bit domestic, like relationships with sisters. And I think it's over, like, they're there for a Thanksgiving meal. It came with this nice little flyer. Yeah, I will look more into it, and it'll go in a similar kind of stack. Like, I don't know that much about it. It's a little bit experimental, but sometimes we just need to take chances on books. And it's by Heather Amy O'Neill, by the way. It's also recent, like 2025 or 2024. Super excited to find Banana Yoshimoto's Hard Boiled and Hard Luck. Absolutely. I read Amrita last year, found it at Little Free Library as well. This was a Little Free Library find. Loved Amrita. And I know Banana Yoshimoto isn't for everybody, but I was a fangirl immediately and thought if I find anything else by this author, I'll grab it. This is a novella. Makes me super happy because I think I need more novellas in my life, and just to be like, I have a little bit of time to read and I want to get in and out of something and then think about it for the rest of the time of the day. So yay. Three Farmers on Their Way to Dance by Richard Powers. I found Bewilderment also in a Little Free Library. This is from a Little Free Library, and Bewilderment, yes, I think I actually got it at the first store, but Overstory. Overstory is big and it's the Pulitzer, and I'm gonna need some enticement to read it, but I did really, really, really enjoy Bewilderment. And so I'm willing to have Richard Powers on my library with the intention of, I know this author's work, and when I get to it, I'm excited. I'm also excited about the premise. He's writing about this picture of these three farmers going to a dance, and it originally published in the 80s, but this is a republication of it. Yeah, I'm enthused. This is not going to be on the same kind of stacks as I said before. This, I have intention and enthusiasm around reading it. I'm familiar with the author. I think likewise, I read The Ninth Hour by Alice McDermott. I liked her writing. Her prose lost me a little bit, but I liked the themes of The Ninth Hour. I remember that. It was a little hard for me to get into. I also remember that. And that one I think was Brooklyn. And this is Long Island. And as I just read Colm Tobin's Brooklyn, and I'm hoping to find Long Island, I thought this was a good step in getting there. So this goes in my stacks. Like, there's these stacks like right here of paperbacks. And those are the ones that I have full intention of reading. They're not the ones of like sort of read it on our holiday or this is a bit experimental. Those are kind of on the bottom over there. But this will go on my stacks, and I have intention of reading this, and I'm familiar with Alice McDermott, and I'm definitely willing to read another book by her. Elaine Fanny's How to Build a Boat was longlisted for the Booker, and I just see myself getting to it on Booker season again. And yes, this is a book that I have some enthusiasm around reading, and it's an Irish or maybe a Scottish author, and I will tell you right now, yeah, an Irish author. So, I mean, I'm not the only Irish author enthusiast. Plenty of anticipation. Probably won't get to it till the Booker, not the international Booker, that's coming, but Booker season, which is, in the fall. This is going to be my third Günter Grass haul. This is The Tin Drum. I'm just gonna have it on my shelf. To be fair, I feel like Günter Grass should almost be in classics, but he's not. I have him in my contemporary and literary fiction shelves. When I get to him, I'll decide if I like him. If I don't, I think a Nobel Prize winner usually denotes work. Some work as a reader, and I can put in work, and then there's time I don't want to put in the work. Then that's okay too. I feel like, someone with this amount of accolades, which I may or may not agree with, at least I have to read more than one book. I feel like especially those Nobel Prize winning authors, they have some books that you're just like, yeah, and some books you're like, no. So I have 3. So I will give Günter Grass at least 2 chances, maybe all 3, one day. And I can't even say that that's going to be this year. Maybe during Nobel season, I will pick. I have several Nobel Prize winning authors, several, yeah. Maybe I'll pick 1 or 2 and get to that. This has a nice little note in it, and I just really appreciate this note. This book was a gift from somebody to somebody else, and they wrote a note in it, and I love finding that. Okay, the next 2 are just Gish Jen, World in Town. I've been seeing this book at my Friends of the Library. I took it as one of my free books this time, and the other one is coming, and I've never read any Gish Jen, so she's going to be in my stacks. As someone whom I really want to give a chance, is this the book? I don't know, but it's the one that I found. So, and I have never found any other, so there's that. I don't know when I'll get to reading this book. For some reason, this feels like something I'd put as a summer read, but that's why I hauled it. And then finally, Dennis Johnson's Train Dreams. We all know that there's now a major motion picture. Over the break, a friend wanted to watch with me, and I said, not until I read the book. To my joy, it is a novella, and I can get this read probably before spring break, when I will probably see this friend again and say, I read the book, so if you want to watch the movie with me, that's great. If not, this is a National Book Award winner, so it'll get read in National Book Award season next fall or summer. Kind of feels like it could be a good, actually, it feels like more of a fall book to me, but it's whatever. It's a little novella. I got it as one of my free books from the Friends of the Library, and for those reasons that I just said. So it is now a major motion picture length video, because I had a lot to say and think about in these books, but it did help me out quite a bit and gives my mind something to work on that brings me joy. So thanks for sticking with me for it.